How about this, Steve Simmons? Edmonton trades Milan Lucic to Calgary for James Neal. Now, there's a conditional pick involved. We're not sure what it is yet. There's a rumble going around that apparently the condition would be that if one guy scored 10 more goals than the other guy, there'd be a third-round pick going the other way. So if Neal had 10 more goals than Lucic, Edmonton would have to give a third-round pick to. Now, you and I both worked in Alberta. You worked in Calgary. I worked in Edmonton. Trades between the Oilers and Flames, very rare.
Well, the strange thing was there was that sort of goalie swap. It wasn't really officially a goalie swap, but Mike Smith went to Edmonton and Cam Talbot went to...
But not for each other.
No, but they replaced those slots with those guys from the other teams, which is pretty rare to start with, because you don't see... Very few players have ever played for both teams, I think. I think it's a pretty short list.
It's longer than it used to be, yeah. But, I mean, Steve Smith played for both.
Kent Nielsen played for both. Yeah, probably the best.
There's tons of guys that played. Kent Nielsen won a Stanley Cup with Edmonton. There is, obviously the subtext of this is James Neal has 4 years to go at $5.75 million. Lucic has 4 years to go with a cap hit of $6 million. Lucic has $21 million in salary remaining to be paid. 11.5 of that 21 is signing bonus. So a much harder contract to buy out than Neal's, which is why Edmonton's retaining some salary in the deal. But I want you to think back for a second to the summer of 2016, okay? This is July 1st, 2016. Here are some of the contracts that were signed on the first day of free agency. Milan Lucic, 7 years, $42 million. Kyle Oposo, 7 years, $42 million. Andrew Ladd, 7 years, $38.5. Louis Eriksson, 6 years, $36. David Backes, 5 years, $30. Troy Brouwer, 4 years, $18. Those are some of the contracts signed that day.
So as my close friend Brian Burke would say, put your checkbook away on July 1st.
Well, I honestly believe, if you look at that list, Lucic, Oposo, Ladd, Eriksson, Backes, and Brouwer. Now, Brouwer's already been bought out. You can have, I think, any of those players for nothing. You could have had any of those players this season for nothing. Just take on the contract. Well, and that's 3 years.
It's like the housing crisis in the United States when you could buy houses for $1.
Right. You could just take if you're willing to take on the mortgage, you could have a house. It is an underline to the perils of signing players at free agency. Now, Edmonton went out and got Lucic. They felt like they needed the extra grit. They'd lost to Anaheim in the playoffs, right, that spring? Right? Yeah. That spring? Yeah.
Yes.
No, it
was after, I think.
That was after that, yeah. But they felt they needed more grit. The GM at the time, Peter Chiarelli, had Lucic in Boston.
Hey, if you go back to Game 7, Leafs and Bruins, the famous 4-1, kill the momentum of Randy Carlyle's career in Toronto, Lucic was huge in those final minutes. He was huge in the final 10 minutes of that game. He was enormous, which forced the Leafs, by the way, to go and sign David Clarkson.
Right.
How'd that work out?
So it was the next season that the Oilers played San Jose and then the Ducks in the playoffs. James Neal's a guy who has a great release, can skate, he's got size, was a healthy scratch in Calgary in the playoffs, had a massive brawl on the ice with their coach, Bill Peters. Had not a brawl, but an argument, a verbal argument. And basically, it was clear that he wouldn't be back with them. So, in your mind, who has the better chance of salvaging something here?
Edmonton. I don't think there's anything in Lucic that's left. The game's gotten too fast for him. He doesn't have speed to be able to play in today's game. I watched a lot of Oilers hockey in the last couple of years. And to be honest, I found myself feeling sorry for him. He just doesn't. He looks like a guy. The game has gone to a place that he can't play anymore. Now, in Neal's case, it's a different story. Neal's always been able to score on every team he's ever been on.
Yeah.
And he's always been able to annoy people in his own dressing room.
Yeah.
So no matter what team he was on, be it Pittsburgh or Nashville, whatever it was, he always had success scoring goals, but they never wanted him to stay. Let's push him on to the next team. Last year was a disaster. So I think if you take James Neal, say, and maybe put him on Connor McDavid's wing,
with that release.
He can shoot.
With that, I mean, he's got. I remember Tony Granato saying, because Granato, was with Joe Sakic, and saying, "I'm not comparing the two guys. All I'm saying is same release, like that Joe Sakic release with the hands together, like it."
It's one of the underrated skills in hockey. You don't often hear people talk about how quickly someone gets rid of the puck.
And accurately.
Yeah. I mean, that's Austin Matthews' game, too.
Right,
I mean, that's
right.
what's made him so great.
It's quick, but it's also on target. And so, Edmonton gets itself out from under a contract they could not get rid of. I mean, essentially, they're having an awful time getting rid of it. It was either there or Vancouver for another problem contract, Louis Eriksson. But the advantage Edmonton has is they can buy out James Neal if they choose, and the cap hit won't be nearly as severe.
But there's also the possibility that if you put him in that position and you say to him, this is where you're going to play, and we're going to put you on the first or second power play, and you're going to play with McDavid, or if failing that, you're going to play with Draisaitl. If you're going to play with one of those two guys on a team that doesn't have any wingers at all, and we're going to play we're going to give you 15, 16 minutes a night, shoot the puck.
Right.
Don't do anything else. Shoot the puck. If he can't shoot the puck anymore and he can't score anymore, then you know what to do with him.
Well,
but there's I could see James Neal scoring 20 goals in Edmonton.
Oh, I can.
I could. Milan Lucic won't score 8.
Right, because it's just, as you said, the speed element of the game. It just seems to have, I don't know when it happened, but all of a sudden, when it happened was when the one-dimensional fighters started getting weaned out of the game. Yeah. Because they got replaced by speed guys. The guys who replaced them were quicker. Now, so here's quite often in sports and in life, they say the generals fight the last war. Calgary got run out of the building by Colorado in the first round, right?
But how much of that was run out of the building and how much of it was speed?
I think Colorado's size was I called that series. Colorado's size was a big difference. Nikita Zadorov is no one's idea of a great offensive defenseman. But, man, he pounded the Flames. Like, he leaned on Gaudreau. He leaned on Monahan. It was big body hockey. Like, Nathan McKinnon's a big guy. Mikko Rantanen's a big guy. Like, they had some size, and Calgary just couldn't seem to fight through. So I wonder if Calgary's looking at maybe, like Chicago is. Chicago gets Zach Smith. They bring Andrew Shaw back. Maybe they're going to try to get grittier in a league that's getting quicker and faster.
You can be gritty, but you have to be able to, A, play, and B, skate. And if you can't do those two things, being gritty is of no use at all. I mean, we saw it with Clarkson in Toronto when he came for that short time. He had nothing. He offered nothing at that point. And we've seen it with Lucic now for a few years in Edmonton. The Lucic of Boston, that guy doesn't exist anymore. He can't impact any game. I never saw him make a play all season long that I said, there's Milan Lucic. Right. And I love the way Milan Lucic played at his best.
At his best, he was a unique player.
Well, he was sort of Tocchet-like.
He was Rick Tocchet in a league that didn't have any Rick Tocchet's anymore. A guy who could score 30, pound anybody. You think about him just running roughshod over people, really at times, unchallenged.
And the one difference between these two guys, Lucic historically has leadership. That's sort of been part of his game. Mm-hmm. He has been a leader on the teams that he's been part of. Now, was he able to do that in Edmonton? No, because he couldn't play. You can't lead if you can't play.
Well, that's the big thing, right? If you're just a trophy piece, if you're a museum piece.
We saw it with Stefan Robidas here in Toronto. If you're not playing, you can't lead.
So that's Ken Holland at Edmonton making a deal that a lot of people thought couldn't be made.